Aloha and welcome to Groundswell. Today we have a really exciting guest, Unsal. She's a really interesting individual in the sense that she is a NLP trainer, and we'll get into what that is. She teaches leadership and NLP at Harvard Business School, at UCLA. Really interesting background in advertising and marketing. We talk a lot about language use and how neuro-linguistic programming can be utilized in marketing, as amongst other things in terms of the language and shift in sort of thinking that we see sort of marketing sort of progressing into. It's a very enlightening, very shiny episode, and I really think you're going to find this one a very different angle and one to definitely dive a little deeper on. So let's do a little duck diving and paddle in, and let's have a quick chat with Shiny. Aloha and welcome to the Groundswell Marketing Podcast. We've got an amazing guest today, Shiny Unsal. Welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Scott. It is my honor. I'm so excited to be on your show.
Not as excited as I am. This is going to be I think it's going to be one of the most talked about episodes, simply because your story, your connection to marketing, and the topic of NLP and its application to marketing. So I think this is going to be an exciting episode. But before we kind of dive into NLP, I just want to get the listeners to a little bit of background, because you have such a unique background. It's steeped in marketing and the story that kind of brought you to the career that you're into right now. Maybe tell us a little bit about your background in marketing and a little bit about yourself.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I was born in a very small town in Turkey, and after high school, I decided to study at the highest level of reputation in the country. I went to the MIT of Turkey, and I studied international relations, not because I wanted to become a diplomat, but because it was something to do with communication. So after graduating, as my mom told me, my diploma actually opened a lot of doors for me. So I found myself working for McCann Erickson. McCann Erickson, as you know, Scott, is one of the biggest, largest advertising agencies in the world. Mm-hmm. And my very first client, the brand that I worked on, was Coca Cola. So at the age of 21, I was already working with Coca Cola, and my other clients later on was Ricketts Benkiser, Opel, Audi, BP, Kotex, Avon, all these amazing, like Gillette and Unilever, all the big brands in the world. I had the chance and opportunity to work with these brands and use some marketing skills and some branding skills to give them a voice, to strategize their connection to their consumers. I didn't know what I was doing within the context that I know now, because back then it was only marketing. Back then it was only some sort of communication and some sort of helping those brands communicate and connect to their consumers. And of course, I did not have the science behind what I was doing that I know today. So my background from Turkey, as I shared, started in the world of marketing and advertising. And within the year of 2010, I went through a massive, massive transformation. I found myself searching for, what am I doing? What is my life purpose? Why do I not fit in? And my primary question, as you will now know from Tony Robbins' world, was, what's wrong with me? I felt like there was something wrong with me, because whatever I did, I was not feeling, oh, that's it. Like, it was not it. I was searching for my life purpose. I didn't know what it was. I knew that it was, and then I felt that it was around communication, marketing, but it was not what I was doing, certainly. So I went to an NLP training in 2010, and that changed my whole life. In a sense.
Okay, so anyone that's listening, what's NLP training?
NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. NLP is the mind technologies. It's the most powerful mind technology that was ever created by Dr. Richard Bandler and John Grinder back in 1970s. And it was adapted and used immensely heavily by Tony Robbins. And now it is known as the power of the mind, like how you can reprogram your mind by using the language. So literally programming your neurons with the language that you have, verbal and nonverbal language. That's what it stands for.
And nonverbal language is what?
Your tonality, your body language, your mimics, how you move your hands, how you have gestures, your eyes. You have this look on your face that says a lot. You don't say anything, but your look says everything. So they're also considered a part of your language in the world of NLP.
Okay. So you took this NLP training. Then what happened?
And first I realized that my mind was powerful beyond limits that I could not even imagine before. And B, I realized that there was something even bigger that I wanted to discover, explore, which was my life purpose. I felt like there was this huge potential that I was tapping into when I experienced neurolinguistic programming. And I did something very radical. I left my career, I left my marriage, I left my friends, I left my life back in Turkey, and I moved back to Los Angeles. That's what happened.
Wow. Okay, so that leaves us with, you've left your country, you've left all this life behind, and what was it exactly that you knew that you were going to be doing then? Or were you on a journey to figure out what that was?
It was a calling, if I may say. That language was a calling from my heart that this feels right. There is something for you. If you follow that, if you commit to that, everything's going to change. You're going to feel fulfilled. You're going to feel connected to your potential, to your life purpose. You are going to live the life on your own terms. That was the feeling that I followed. And 9 years right now, if I just fast forward 9 years, I truly am living my dream life on my terms, helping people, transforming lives, and co-creating the life that I always wanted to live since I was a little girl, with the universe, with the quantum field around me. It was literally understanding deeply that I needed to follow my heart and I needed to do whatever it takes to do this. And of course, what it takes, if I talk about what it takes, oh my gosh, I went through a whole new world of transformation myself. I studied NLP with so many different people, including the creator, Dr. Richard Bandler himself. I went to my first CPW with Tony Robbins in 2011, March. And I went to Landmark. I went to Kabbalah. I did metaphysical studies. I did my master's in metaphysical psychology. I read all the books and listened to all the CDs that I could ever find in the world of neuroscience, heart science, Dr. Deepak Chopra, also Dr. Daniel Siegel. And also I found myself studying emotional intelligence from Dr. Daniel Goleman. And I put together a program that I was so excited about, but I was not feeling good enough yet to start it in US. So what I did, I went back to my home country, to Istanbul, Turkey, to start my very first training in 2011, December, like almost 2012. And since then, I have been delivering NLP trainings. In the year of 2014, I merged my NLP trainings with coaching trainings. So, and then I got my approval from International Coach Federation. And today, what I have is I have designed my own methodology, Neuro-Shine Technology, and then I call it the technology for truth. So with Neuro-Shine Technology, my purpose is to teach people how powerful their mind is and how powerful the language is. And we don't even realize how powerful that is. And with Neuro-Shine Technology, with finding those aha moments, those what I call Neuro-Shine moments, those are shiny moments, we get closer to our potential. We get even more connected to who we truly are. And if we follow that frequency, scientifically proven, we feel more fulfilled and we make more money. We have deeper relationships. It's just a moment of truth. And that is my legacy. That is my life purpose. And that's what I felt back in 2010. There was something in it. And when I was able to, and when I was willing to take a deep dive, I found what it was. So that's right.
Amazing. Yeah. I remember when I bumped into you in, was it London? No, Amsterdam.
Yes.
And we had this, it was like 4 a.m. or something after a Tony Robbins event after party. And just started just like having this like in-depth conversation of NLP and its potential applications for marketing.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's what got me so excited about talking with you. And, you know, having to get to know you a little bit over the last little while between when we first met. I mean, it's pretty mind-blowing, the stuff that you do. I mean, you work with UCLA, you teach there. Is it emotional intelligence and your Neuro-Shine technology, or is it just specific to emotional intelligence? Or
well, what I teach at UCLA as part of UCLA faculty, I am teaching leadership communication strategies. It's a standalone course that people can take, and then they can also take it as part of their certification program. If they're doing a certification program at UCLA Extension, let's say general business certification with concentration in marketing, or marketing certification with concentration in leadership, they can come take my course. And people who come take my course at UCLA, I'm just proud to say, they are business owners, entrepreneurs, people who work at big companies and Fortune 500 brands such as Tesla, American Express, Sony, Verizon. It's just so diverse in a way that I learned so much from my students at UCLA. And going back to your question, I teach leadership communication strategies and another course that I named and I designed and I actually created this course. It's called Managing Yourself and Others with Emotional Intelligence.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a topic that's bubbling up into the, you know, I guess you could say like everyday conversation is emotional intelligence and the importance of it in the marketplace. And I would argue emotional intelligence in the marketing marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
You know?
Well,
so I've kind of established, like, I mean, there's no question. I mean, you've got like all this, I mean, we could just spend a lot of time about the science and, you know, talking about, you know, more in depth about Neuro-Shine technology is and NLP. I think that what I'd love to do is let's just dive in and let the listeners really kind of get their head around but the impacts, the potential around what you train and what you've discovered in your journey of basically, like, I mean, you author stuff around this, you train this, you've been working, you've been featured on, you know, Forbes, Huffington Post, the different places. I mean, you're working with the best of the best. So someone that's listening is in marketing going, okay, how does this apply to me?
Yeah. Yeah. So important. So I would love to actually talk about that very much, Scott, because marketing, advertising, the way I used to do it, the way I was involved with it a decade ago is just so different than what we have today. First of all, we live in a different world because we do have social media right now. Everything is digital. And within that realm of digitalness, it becomes even more important to be able to express who you are through your products, your services, your message. And that is all about language. So I have this tool in my Neuro-Shine technology, and that is based on NLP. That tool is about communication. We divide communication into 3 pieces. The biggest chunk of the piece is body language, and that one is 55%. The second piece is tonality, and that one is 38%. And the remaining 7% is words only. So it may sound like, wait a minute. So we're talking about the importance of language and words. And are you telling me they only count for 7%? Yes. And it does not mean that words are not important. Actually, what it means is that words are so important. They are so absolutely transformational the way we speak, and still yet they only count for 7%. So what we can understand from this and what we can apply to marketing is, if we can find the correct words, the words that are not going to trigger people's ego, people's fight and flight response, the words that are going to let them feel safe, let them feel free, and let them feel connected to the product, the service, the message, whatever that is being offered, there we can have the real connection, the real match, and the real serving. Because at the end of the day, like, what is marketing for? What is sales and marketing and branding for? It is
create change,
right? To create change the way you want to create change. So you have your own essence. In your essence, you have your own values, your own beliefs, your own uniqueness, your own talent, so that you can deliver what you're offering to the world in your unique way. And that's what the world needs to know. And that's what we call marketing. And if
However, I want to just ask one thing. So in the traditional marketing sense, there's so much talk about, if there's a product that, they want to play on people's fears to create a quicker call to action, for example.
Yeah.
That seems to be the opposite of what you're saying.
Well, yes, it may sound like that, because I, as a human, before anything else, I'm a human, and I totally agree with the motion and the reason, the concept of call to action and taking action immediately. And at the same time, I stand for being a human first. I stand for understanding if what we are offering is really going to serve the other person, because they also are a human. So we want to create this human to human relationship that is really going to serve, because what we offer to the world is not necessarily going to serve every single person on the world. So that's why it's important to qualify what we're trying to say and then exactly reframe. So there is another technique in NLP. It's called reframing. Reframing, let me give you an example. When I hear my mom, because I also train my mom, when I hear my mom telling me, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I don't know how to do this, so I can't do that. So when I apply reframing to that situation, I ask my mom, so I understand that you may not be able to have the resources right now to do whatever you are going to do. So what does it take? So what has to happen for you to be able to have the resources? So with the question, with the language that you use, you reframe people's thoughts and beliefs, and then you literally shift their focus from problem to solution. That's what the reframing is for. Reframing is basically a communication technology, a communication tool that helps us move from focusing on problem to focusing on solutions. And that is so helpful. Even using reframing is going to change everything, because the way I look at human brain is a mental library. And imagine that in this mental library, you have 100 trillion files, because that is the number of neurons that we have. So if you have 100 trillion files in your mental library, and each and every one of them has some information in it, And because of the structure of the brain and how neurons connect to each other, they actually exchange information, they share information. And the way that they share information has already been programmed to us from our upbringing, from our mom and dad and school and environment. And if
Mm-hmm.
we do not have these tools like reframing or measuring communication and how it actually creates outcomes for others in terms of their psychology, if we don't know the tools and technologies to calculate the effect of our communication, then we don't have any ability to go back to those mental files and to reorganize them, to clean them from the dusted ones. You know what I mean? Like imagine a library and those folders and files, they are just dusted because you have not been using them for so many years. And now they're collecting dust. And what you want to do, you actually want to go in there again, clean it up and see what's inside. Is there something that is going to serve you today, or that dusted file and folder is no longer serving you? Maybe you just need to give it away to somebody else who's going to need it. So it's exactly
Right. But that's for somebody using NLP on themselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you're a marketer, how does that apply for someone that's going, look, I want to, I want to use this technology to, affect change in my business. How am I able to access or dust off those files, as you call them? Or can you, or is it, maybe help us with that, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So where I'm going with this is for someone to do a very effective marketing, they need to understand that we all have mental libraries and we all have needs. So the offer, the product, the service, whatever that is on the table needs to serve and needs to connect and needs to match with those mental files and mental folders of people. So those techniques like reframing, like being able to ask your consumer, hey, I understand it may not be the best day for you. What if I offered this? Then you just give it a try. Then tell me how it feels. And if it feels right for you, then I would love to serve you more. It's not in a way pushing and inviting them to call to action, but it's literally inviting them. For example, in my own organization, in my trainings and my coaching services, what I do, so we have, in my team, we have this language. And the way we use language is really interesting because I don't like the words, for example, sales. So if I am going to have a script, I'm not going to name it sales script. I'm going to name it invitation script. Because as humans, we don't want to be sold. As humans, we want to be helped. So marketing needs to serve that purpose. In my understanding, marketing needs to touch the human behind the computer, especially in the digital world. So in the digital world, the kind of marketing that is being done today is kind of like talking to a mass. But with NLP, what we can learn is that you're not talking to a mass, you're talking to one single human being. And that single human being has mental files, mental beliefs, some limitations, some financial stuff, some family issues, some life going on. And that needs organizing. And what we can do with NLP and the world of marketing is become a help, become a human helper, not somebody who is pushing, okay, you got to buy now or you're going to lose this. Again, Scott, I'm all up for the motivation and inviting people to take action immediately. And at the same time, I believe we can actually do a better job in the way we connect and we talk to our consumers. Because again, if it becomes a push, a salesy thing, we don't want that. Do you want to be sold? Or do you want to be invited?
I love that. I mean, of course, I'd love to be invited. I mean, that just sounds much more human and warm and inviting. And I think what you're bringing up is this, what I believe, and this is part of what you and I were really connecting on, is I just believe there's this big shift to more mindful marketing where there's more intent in a positive way that's meant to really focus on how can we help, how can we serve,
Yeah.
and that can culminate into a more meaningful relationship, which is ultimately loyalty. And even more than that is you create a stronger word of mouth, which makes it grow faster, creating a groundswell of support.
Yeah.
So to me, that's what's missing right today is I think there's so much push in this language, which is target, acquire. Like it's such a weird language now that I've been getting in this bubble and learning from you and different people where I'm going, something's missing here. I think that people, like, it treats people like they're cattle or something. And I think that this is going to come to an end. I think this whole mentality is changing.
I think so too. And I am a pioneer in that one. And I would love to become someone who invites people. I would like to become someone, listen, this is what I stand for. And this is why it is important to me. I even went ahead and changed my name. I kind of like rebranded myself, right?
Okay, you got to explain that.
Let's talk about that. So let's talk about that. So my name, Shiny, Shiny, as it is on my passport, is the name I actually asked for. When I became a citizen back in 2015, I was asked if I wanted to get an American name. And to me, there was just one thing that was popping up, Shiny. And when I said it to the officer, he was shocked. He was like, are you seriously going to get yourself a name that goes with Shiny? I'm like, yes. And it is very uncommon. And the reason I did that was because it is my life purpose. So let me explain it in terms of marketing. So in terms of marketing, what do you need? You need branding. And what is branding is your uniqueness, is your unique characteristic qualities that makes you stand out from the crowd and that gives you a different edge. So when I think about myself and look at Shiny in terms of branding, it absolutely matches with my personality. I mean, you met me and you
Totally.
know, I am this personality. Like wherever I go, I have this a smile and positive energy that goes everywhere with me. And then I kept hearing it all my life with everyone. And then they kept telling me, you have this energy, you have this energy. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what is that? And after studying psychology, neuroscience, cosmology, quantum physics, emotional intelligence, NLP, all that, until I realized that, you know, this energy was actually something bigger than the word itself. That's why words are powerful. When we say energy, we're just using a simple word, but it actually means the whole mental file that comes with it. Does that make sense? So when something, So that's what I mean by branding. One word actually means the whole mental file and folder that comes with it in the human brain. So shiny is going to absolutely mean different things to different people because they do have their own mental files and folders around it. But A, it matches with my personality. And B, I really want to become this person who makes others shine their light, shine their mind first, because the whole idea of Neuro-Shine Technology is based on creating those Neuro-Shine moments, like literal electrical, uplifting, truth-finding, liberating aha moments. Those are the moments of truth. When you go, that aha moment, that moment is your moment of truth. And if you live your life from those moments of truth, you're good. you have an absolutely amazing life. And that is what my Neuro-Shine technology aims for humanity. And that's why I went ahead and I named myself Shiny. I kind of anchored it. Anchoring is another tool that we use in NLP. So I anchored my life purpose, what I would like to do in this world, what I offer to the world at the highest level, which is my identity level, my name, the way it shows up on my passport. And that also became my branding and marketing. So this is something that I of course consciously
I
chose.
feel like there's a
was
whole
aware
other
of-
episode called with personal branding. What's that?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, personal
You know,
branding.
because I don't know anybody that's actually gone so far as changing their actual name. So, you know, when you usually think of personal branding, there's like, just putting a wrapper on your existing name and the stuff you stand for, the values and that kind of stuff. But you've taken it to the ultimate level. So
I did.
I mean, I feel like that's a whole discussion itself. Well, that's amazing. So, and by the way, I didn't actually know that until just a couple days ago. Even though I've reviewed all your background and stuff, I only caught today the little line that says you named yourself. And then when I asked you today before the call, I'm like, did you name yourself? And because when I saw you, I was like, this is what I thought to myself. I'm like, oh my God, who calls their kid Shiny? And it totally matches you. So I was like, wow, what are the chances? So that's pretty cool. That's a cool story. And I'm sure anyone in marketing branding is just going, geez, that's amazing.
That is certainly about that.
So we were talking about, like, you touched on the shift of language, like using the word invite instead of sale. How important, like, do you think like marketers today, they're always trying to use like triggers and, things that evoke an emotional reaction, response, sorry. With NLP, how does that shift? Like, how is that better? What makes this more advanced than just what the current ways that most people look at language and how they're trying to motivate people to do things?
Okay, that's a great question, and I hope I have a great answer for you. So, first answer. Marketers today, including you and me, we're all marketers, right? So if you are a business owner, if you are offering something to the world, like, you're a marketer. That's it. End of story. So when you're a marketer, I don't even like the word marketing, by the way, anymore.
Well, Joe Pine says it's going to go away as a name. In my episode 6 or something, he says it's going to be called customering, because you won't. It's just your marketing to customers, and marketing just disappears.
Seriously, like, we got to come on with new terminology. Anyways, let's pass that. So to your question, language, again, if you look at neuroscience and if you look at brain and if you look at the parts of the brain, you see temporal lobe where actual language is processed is very close to cerebellum where actual limbic is and where amygdala is. So I'm going to go in a very scientific way. So amygdala is the emotional chef, emotional executive who tells you fight, flight, which means like fight, run, or hide. So if we hear words that are kind of like creating a sort of like potential danger or potential threat to our existence meaning our beliefs, values, anything. So that amygdala, that center, is actually telling us either to fight or to run or to hide. So let's apply this to marketing. In marketing, the very effective way is questions, like asking questions. Why? Why is it important to ask questions? Because one, questions are creating awareness and making people connect this neuron over here and that neuron over there. And those synapses are going to create Neuro-Shine moments, aha moments and realizations and moments of truth. And if your brand, your product, and your service is the one who's creating those moments of truths for that consumer, you got them. It's just going to go in a place of, oh, they understand me. They got me. Oh, I feel appreciated. I feel understood. So that's one. And two, questions are also very powerful because questions are, powerful questions. I need to reframe what I mean by questions. The powerful questions that are really reframing language from problem thinking to solution thinking. So if the company, the product, the service, whoever is the marketer, is able to come up with those powerful questions, like I said, number one is they're going to create awareness. And number two, they are going to be the one who is going to help that human to go from problem thinking to solution thinking. And that is added value. And this is something that we don't even look at. You just, read an ad, you just watch a movie or a video, a promo video or something, and you don't realize, you don't calculate that. But these are automatic, unconscious values that are being added by the marketer. Does that make sense, Scott?
Mm-hmm. It does. So, it's so you're beyond language. Like nowadays with marketing, everything is so rich, media, video, and so forth. You said tonality and motion, movement, gestures. How could somebody, look at that and they're trying to make a deeper impact, and what's sort of the framework and the ways that people should be thinking if they could listen to this and go, how can I apply this right now? Obviously you'd want to, get some training,
Absolutely.
but just a takeaway today and just go like, what would be some examples of how that you could apply that?
Yes. And that is going to be my second answer to you. So other than questions, that, I think they're really, really powerful to use in marketing. And of course, whoever is listening to me, I'm talking to you right now. So when you're using questions, you want to do it masterfully and elegantly in a way that is going to serve the other person. So your material or your speech, if you're doing the speaking, whatever you're saying, it needs to be oriented on the other person, not about you. We are very, very clever creators. We understand and we feel if there is a calculation in the way you show up in the world. So if you're telling me that you're going to help me, but I feel that you're actually calculating how much you're going to make money off of me, if I feel it, then I'm not going to, feel appreciated that much. So it needs to be not only in the way you ask questions, but in the way you speak, your tonality, and your body language. Like you need to look in the eye and create that bonding, that connection. And on top of that, the importance of the words, I am going to give a very, very easy 5-step framework that everybody can use so that we all have the power of the words. And the rest is to just mix it up with the tonality and the body language when we are delivering rich media messages to people when we do marketing. So what is that 5-step structure that I am talking about? What I created in my Neuro-Shine Technology, this actually is a framework that can be applied to everything and anything, including coaching, including relationships, including business and marketing. Number one. So step number one. This is a framework that can be applied to a lot of things in life. And the whole idea is to bring the humanness back. The humanness. Because before anything, we are human. And I believe the time that we are going through is inviting us to go back and reactivate that human inside. So this whole idea of this 5-step structure is designed to bring the humanness back and create truth. Okay?
Love it.
So step number one, hold the space and get curious. What does holding the space mean? It means that you let the person be whatever they are, whoever they are. And especially if you are talking to them one-on-one, this is going to be more effective, right? If you're doing a video or if you're just writing text, it may not be as important, but especially if you're one-on-one, holding the space means with your existence, you create some sort of connection, eye-to-eye connection, and you bring safety to that space. Like they are safe with you, and that's why they want to open up. And you're also curious, and so they are feeling like, wow, whatever I am about to say is going to be appreciated because they want to hear, they want to listen. Wow, I'm important. Like immediately in step number 1, we are creating that, establishing that trust. Okay, that's why that's step number 1. Hold the space and get curious. Step number 2. Step number 2 is where we all go back to being this vulnerable human again, because it is about validation. Validate the person in front of you. What does that mean? When I am talking, maybe I am in a video, I am starting my sentence like this. Listen, I understand you might be going through tough times. I understand it might be very challenging for you to get up in the morning and to do whatever you're supposed to do. I've been there. Boom. Like you're validating them. You are telling them that wherever they are is okay. Whatever they go through is okay, is more than okay. And then you're just letting them know that it is okay, and you're validating. So in relationships, in marketing, it's the same thing. We need to start our conversations by validating each other. If we forget to validate, then we forget the humanness again. So that's why step number 2 is validate. Okay? Step number 3, after creating holding the space and get curious and validate, step number 3 is ask permission. So huge. It speaks to the highest level of the brain, which is prefrontal cortex. And what it means is when you ask permission, let me ask you, Scott, how do you feel when I ask permission? Scott, do I have the permission to share an opinion with you?
Of course. I feel that when you ask me that, you honor me.
There you go. Boom. Honor, respect, right? So I'm honoring you, and I am respecting your space. Maybe you don't want my opinion. Not everybody is interested in each other's opinion. And it's the same in marketing. Maybe whoever is like scrolling down on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever the media you're using when you're doing marketing, maybe they don't want to hear your opinion. But if you are someone who shows up, do I have your permission to share something? Boom. All of a sudden, wow, like what's going on here? So it's immediately taking you to another level of elegance and mastery, because you're creating that space of honoring and respecting the individual in front of you. That's why you want to ask permission. Step number 4, after holding the space with curiosity, and step number 2 being validation, and step number 3 being asking permission, step number 4 is to talk about pain and pleasure. So what does that mean? Pain and pleasure, they are the 2 main human drives in our psychology. So whatever we do, 99.99999% of the time, we want to avoid pain and we want to have pleasure. Pleasure meaning just even like simple peacefulness, right? So that also means pleasure. So when we come from pain and pleasure, we're actually combining why it is painful to be stuck in the way you are doing everything right now, why it is painful, just explain them the pain points and also show them the pleasure points after that. Listen, if you keep on going the way you have been going, it is going to give you exactly the same results. If you have been feeling overwhelmed, if you have been feeling alone, you're gonna continue feeling that way because you're not making any changes. Boom. So those are the pain points. And then you are now going into pleasure. But if you would like to, if you allow me to show you something, I have another way of doing things. So then that is the pleasure. That is showing them the pleasure of going with your choice in your invitation. That's why it needs to be both pain and pleasure, because most of the time, unfortunately, we don't know how to think. We don't know how to think in terms of pain and pleasure. We don't know how to look at everything in terms of how it is going to be helpful or harmful. And that's why in marketing, it helps to just break it down to pain and pleasure at the same time. And step number 5, we invite them. We invite them to take an action, and we give them a deadline, which we call the call to action, right, Scott? So that is step number 5. After sharing the perspective, the new way of doing things in their way, with the intention that we are going to serve them. We're holding the space, we're allowing them to be, and we're just honoring them. We're asking permission to share our way, and then we are explaining why it is going to be painful to continue that way, why it is going to be pleasurable to go with the new way, and then we are inviting them. That's invitation. Step number 5 is always invitation. It's not sales. It's not, pushing them or anything. It's literally, it might be viewed as the call to action, and there is a deadline, because like I said in the beginning of my talk to you, I'm all up for motivating and using the time, because that is what human psychology requires. If there is no timeline, if there is no deadline, it's just human psychology. Something else becomes a priority, because that is also, again, from neuroscience, there is the capacity of the human brain. If you don't take action, then you're just going to forget about it. It's going to be deleted. So that's why it's important to put a deadline. So the framework is that, again, step number 1, hold the space with curiosity. Step number 2, validate. Step number 3, ask permission to talk about whatever you're going to talk about. Step number 4, show them the pain and the pleasure at the same time. And step number 5, invitation with a deadline.
Amazing. So I think, like, after going through all that, I think that one of the biggest things that is going to be exploding in terms of marketing and sort of the new framework that businesses are going to be, the reality that they're going to be in, is due to voice chat technology, is this whole thing called conversational marketing. That framework is exactly the framework that needs to happen in this new reality. It's and it has the tone of empathy, meeting with a bit of patience, and, like you said, humanizing interactions instead of following a typical script of bringing them through sort of like the, yes, no, and overcoming objections. Because what you're doing in overcoming objections, you're waiting to answer them. You're waiting to hear their answer to just get to the objection and handle it, as opposed to navigating them as on a one-to-one individual basis. I think that is very powerful. And possibly game-changing for what's about to happen. And anyone that's listening, if you have any doubt, like, let me just put this to rest right now. Mark my words, mark this date. Like, in the next 2 years, voice and conversational marketing is going to take over like you've never seen, because it's frictionless. People are not, like, typing, and people don't want more screen time. They can't read things faster. And when you can just talk to your phone and get search and stuff served up to you, this is the new reality. And so the framework that you're telling me right now, I think is like, you've just hit the beginning of the curve of businesses that are listening to this episode should be like, hopefully writing down those and writing your name down, because I think this is where it's going. And don't you agree? Like, you and I were just talking about like how when we're talking about marketing, and we want to say, like, where are we going with all this? And I feel like we've hit a tipping point where people are exhausted of the pollution and the noise of funnel, traps, ads. People are over it. And I think businesses, I'm not saying it's going to go away, but I'm saying businesses that actually want to have a higher level of ethics, a deeper level of connection with their customers for long term, and want to create a bit of a groundswell because people really want to get behind them, this is the way to go. Don't you agree? Like, this is where it's going.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. More human to human. And it is, to me, this is literally the legacy of my father who passed away. And that's what I'm doing, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And like, we need to go back to like 1930s and 40s and 50s, and where like person to person human interaction was valuable, was something. Like when you go back to the black and white movies and when you see them, there's actually this shyness, and then there is just this cute interaction between them, and like there is this like connection, eye to eye. There is no phone and there is no computer around them. They're just like human to human. I guess that's what we are craving for, Scott. And that's why we are rethinking, re-questioning the way we used to do things, because we are human. And at the same time, NLP and human potential development and everybody like wanting to become their true self, and, you know, wanting to have their own unique voice and make their own difference in the world. It's just coming together with this humanness that we're talking about with you. And then I guess like, oh my God, I got the goosebumps and chills all over me, by the way, as I talk to you, because it is the truth. And that's why I named my Neuro-Shine Technology the technology for truth. Like, what about the truth? Yes, you're telling me all of those things. And what about the truth? I just love those, you know, nostalgic movies where there are, you know, literally eye to eye with each other. We are craving for that. And that's why all those technologies like conversational technologies and things like that, they're going to free us a little bit more so that we can have this human to human connection even more.
I agree. I think that that's what people are craving for, more than ever, because we've been so disconnected. And for brands and businesses that truly want to build connection with their audience, their customers, and have them coming back, I think you're going to see a bit of a backlash to automation for automation's sake. I think most businesses have run there because they think that that's how you want to scale. I think the same reaction is just about to happen, where people are going to recognize automation and realize that it's inhuman. And there's going to be more of we'll call it a certified human. So I could totally see a certification for a business going, we're 100% human, you know,
really?
You know what I mean? Like, because they want people, like, think about your phone. When you phone into your telephone company, or I have two airlines, and one I get a I think WestJet, I get a human being, and Air Canada, I have to go through a whole bunch of like automation. It makes a big difference, you know, just talking to a human. I think that says a lot about the brand or the business you want to build. Something to consider, and use automation to get more human or give you more human time, not automate human relationships.
Yeah, I love that. What a concept, certified human.
I think it's possible. I mean, I mean, we're entering a world where, you know, the fake news, everybody's talking about what's fake, what's real. So I almost feel between blockchain technology, AI, there's going to be certification and, you know, different ways that we're going to see technology that's going to give the ability for people to actually understand the source and understand, am I talking to an AI or am I talking to a human? Because I think the lines are going to blur real quick.
Yeah. Well, it's just so interesting you are talking about that, because, you know, in my trainings, what I am doing, I'm actually using a technology that is measuring the brain and heart coherence. And that is, to me, where we are truthful. So the reason I have Neuro-Shine Technology as a technology for truth is because those truth moments, they're actually measurable now. Did you know that?
Is that when Tony? I remember Tony Robbins talking about when you are in a state of gratitude, and there's a heart meter measurement where your brain
Yes.
waves and your heart waves
Mm-hmm.
sync up. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
in a state of frustration,
Yep.
they're out of sync. Is that what you're talking about?
That is what I'm talking about. And that is from Heart Math Institute. So they come
Okay.
up with the study. They actually study heart. And it's literally called heart science. Just like we have neuroscience studying neurons, they have been studying heart for the last 20 to 25 years. They have been studying the heart. And they have found out the strong, strong, strong waves of the heart. Like they're so strong, stronger than the brain most of the time. And we are actually building connections through our hearts. And it's just measuring that coherence of the brain and the heart. Because, most of the time, for example, what I do in my trainings, we work on conflicts. One part of me wants this, one part of me wants that. That is brain and heart not being coherent. You know what I mean? One part of me is doing something and the other one wants to do another thing. So we want to bring all parts of human into wholeness. And that is my concept of oneness. Like you are one and you are part of this whole one huge mega cosmos and quantum field, quantum intelligence. And it all comes from that. And it is not measurable. How we think and how we feel is actually bringing us at a certain frequency. And those are devices that are measuring them. Very, very exciting news.
Interesting. So if you're a business and you're going, okay, that sounds it sounds really interesting. How do I create a business? And I think it's more than just a marketing message, because I think, as you mentioned earlier, if you just have a message with not the right intent, people can tell. Mm-hmm. So if you have a full business with its value proposition, the mission, the vision, the direction of the company, and they really want to connect the heart and mind together and really create this transformation and connection with their customers, how would one go about that? That big question?
As a trainer, my answer is going to be training, because we don't know what we don't know unless somebody shows it to us, somebody brings it to our attention. And that's what happened to me when I went to the NLP training, right? Because I didn't know how the mind works. Like my question to all the listeners, do you know how your mind works? Because if you don't, what's happening is the mind is taking over. You are not taking over the mind. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. You're not the voice.
Exactly. You're not. Some other parts of you are running the show because they have been programmed, and you don't know what the programming is. You don't know how to reverse engineer the programming. You don't know what kind of language you need to interrupt that programming pattern, so on and so forth. So that's why it requires training. Just like we had to learn the new way of doing marketing and social media. Like we had to learn social media. We had to learn, I had to learn the second language that I'm speaking, English. I had to learn driving. I had to we learn all that. So it all goes back to learning, and that's why it all goes back to training. So all the marketing and all the efforts that we are actually doing as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we need to adapt to what is needed in the world. And especially if we want to go back to human to human humanization process, we need to understand what's being human. What is the mind? What is the heart? What is the soul? How do they work? Do they ever get out of synchronicity, and do they ever create problems? How do I find out? How do I find out about my employee's situation? By studying the mind. Do I understand them better? Do I have more empathy if I understand the mind? What if I am a better communicator? What if I know exactly how my words are creating consequences and creating some sort of discomfort for the people that I work with? I can tell you, I have just finished my master level training, right? So I can tell you, Scott, people before And after my training, they are completely different communicators, completely different, because they understand the science behind it. And now there is no excuse not to use it. Now now they are responsible. Now they know. And they have experienced this way or the other way. This way meaning they have been doing their own language in a certain way and they have been getting some certain results. They have already experienced in that. And after studying the mind, after understanding language, and after putting it at work at an elegant level, they see how immediately they change the result that they get, and boom, like they see the benefit, and then it just happens immediately. It's the same thing in marketing. You need to understand how the mind works. Like, you need to understand how the mind of the consumer who's reading your lines or watching your video or scrolling down on social media, you need to understand how their mind processes information in order for you to share your message at the highest level. Like, we don't have the luxury today with everything that is going on. I don't think we have the luxury of not knowing how the mind works.
Oh, it's competition's getting crazier, and almost now more than ever, there's more people in marketing, or, quote, I'm using air quotes there, than ever before, and everybody's calling themselves a marketer because it's never been easier, because anyone can go online and market. But I would argue it's never been harder.
Oh, yeah.
Now, with everyone pushing emotional surface emotions to create a reaction, and addiction, dopamine with clickbait, different things. I think this is why I wanted to sort of like underpin why this was such a unbelievably interesting episode to bring to bear. If anyone's really grasping what we're saying here, is like, this is going next level. Like, this is where marketing, smart marketing, intelligent marketing, and conscious marketing is going, is what you're espousing, and the deep background that you're talking about is using NLP as a way of, and a force for good and good change, not necessarily pushing fear and stuff. It's going the opposite direction. And I feel it's the only way this really works, because I think fear-based marketing is dying, just like smoking and, different things that were bad habits. And we can't believe that we, used to say that was healthy for you or whatever. Right.
Yes. And here is also why, because fear-based marketing is not the truth. Like, I want to go back to the truth. I want to go back to Neuro-Shine Technology. It's not the truth. Even though it may serve them at that moment of time, it's going to be an instant gratification, which is not long run. You know what I mean? So
it's just transactional.
It is not transformational. And you understand that. We have this language. So if we want to create this real change and contribution for other people, like, if this is like really truly important, like, we need to come from the heart, come from the truth. And we need to tell them the truth. Like, we need to have the courage. You know what? Listen, this is what I offer. And then I hear that in your circumstances, it may not be the right time for you. Like, that is being able to, like, that is the highest level of marketing to me. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I agree. I totally do. And I think that's where people that are listening to their marketing, they traditionally think of, well, there's transactional relationships, then there's relationship, where you're, and that's where most people are today. But you're talking about like transformational, where there's actually the result of you providing the service, you're creating a change and something they value that improves their life in a way that it deepens the relationship with you, and it makes them compelled to want to share and help other people in a way. It's like it has its own viral component. That's why I call it my groundswell, like groundswell marketing. It's like that's the grease that makes the wheel move frictionlessly.
Yeah, totally. So we're on the same page, and this is exactly what I mean for the next level of marketing. But like, let's not do marketing. Let's tell the truth.
Boom. That was the mic drop moment. Boom. I love it. That might be the title of the show right there. And
right?
I think that's why I'm just so pumped to talk to you. I love the conversations we have together. Yeah. I'm really excited about continuing to explore how you and I are going to we have this, loose concept of transforming the marketing world with NLP, and I look forward to talking with you more about how we're going to collaborate, because I know there's a collaboration that's imminent, because I think this is pivotal.
Yes.
I mean, I can't believe that so many people no one's really talking about it. And now that you and I've been talking and been doing my research, I'm like, this is game changing for marketing.
It is really, and it is, again, it is the truth. It is the truth at the highest level. And I'm very passionate about it. And, as you know, my marketing is my background for a decade before I started my own training and coaching business. And I would love to bring this language, this communication technology back to the marketing, because it is actually the same. The reason I wanted to be in marketing to begin with when I was in high school was because I knew I needed to do something with communication in this world. Like, I was put on this world to do something around talking. That, like, my mom and dad, they gave me a microphone when I was 3 years old, for God's sake. Like, I had a mic since the age of 3. So
you were made for this.
Yeah,
This is great.
Yeah. So,
well, thank you so much. I know we kind of gone a little over our hour, which is totally fine. I feel like we're just stepping into what could be part 2 of this.
Yeah.
We didn't even touch on a couple things we said we're going to talk about. So
I was
think that
feeling like we just started.
Well, what we could do is we could just keep talking, or we can set up another time and do another session. Either one is fine with me.
Well, I'm totally fine. I'll keep talking a little bit more.
Yeah, well, let's make this the bonus. So you're now in bonus round with Shiny. So
Exactly.
Let's dive into the bonus round. I'll call it the bonus feature on the podcast.
That's perfect. Love it. Yeah.
So what do you want to dive into? Like, there were so many things that we were talking about, and we're talking about like how we could change marketing using language, how NLP can, basically almost create a new branding platform, because I think it's not just messaging. I think that's what I'm trying to get through to people. And I think you could maybe articulate better than me, is we're not talking about marketing messaging alone. We're talking about congruency across the organization, because today marketing is almost becoming as close to culture, because it's not what people say, it's how they interact with your brand and how they feel when they interact with you. So how would you address that in that way when you're talking? Now we're move away from maybe the messaging, because that's kind of where we were talking, because I think that's where most people get their head around. Let's talk about it on the bigger picture, the true way. Like, if someone's listening, I'm a CEO and I'm going, what the hell is this? How can I prepare myself for this future, which is coming, and apply this to build my brand and reframe my business?
Well, for that question, I would like to, with my expertise, I would like to recommend every bigger organization to create a common language first. Because what is common language? Like, we are in a global world, and we come with different cultural backgrounds and understandings and those mental files. Like, every human being, they're going to have their own map of the world, their own reality. And that is going to show up in the way that they behave and relate and interact with each other. So in terms of organizational development, creating the culture, creating the synergy, the way people connect and do the business with, right? So I believe the most important thing is to have the common language. And isn't that the reason why companies, like when you create a business, isn't that the why you start with business vision, mission, values, and principles, right? You start with that. You start with, okay, where are we going? How are we going there? And what's important for us when we are while we're getting there. It's not only the outcome.
And the value proposition.
Yeah. Like it's the way, like, we create a structure, a frame in a way for the organization. And for that, actually, that becomes the language. And that becomes the language. And the language is so powerful. Let me give you an example from my class at UCLA 2 nights ago. So we were talking about charisma the other night at my leadership class at UCLA Extension. So I made everyone, I had 26 people in the class, and I made them play some sort of a game. The game is that you are sitting on the board and you are actually presenting, you're kind of like pitching your message, your reason why they should choose you and vote for you as the next CEO of the company. So they're broken into groups of 5, and every single one of them, they are coming up with their own pitch, their own reasoning, and why they should be chosen as the next CEO. Okay. So at the final round, there were like 5 groups, and there were like 5 winners. And I also asked those 5 winners to come up to the stage and present to the whole class. And the winner of those winners was somebody who was actually the least charismatic one, but it was somebody who spoke the language in such an effective way that they just couldn't help it. They voted for her. So let's talk about that. What happened here? So what did she do? Because we also analyzed it. And I always look at my training and my teaching environments as laboratory, because this is a lab, this is some results are happening, and let's analyze what's going on. So when I ask everybody, so why did you vote for her? And then they said, well, because of the way she made me feel. And I'm like, okay, how did she make you feel? And then they all said, I felt included, I felt validated, I felt honored, I felt appreciated, I felt valuable, all that good stuff. So this is all, it is actually tying back to marketing and language and branding and all that. But in the organization, in the big picture, that's how language is impactful. The way she was saying, this is not about me. We're going to do this together. And then I got the goosebumps again. We were going to do this together. And only if we, like she was using the we language.
Inclusion. Yeah.
So the other ones, then when they were presenting I language. I have 20 years of experience in such and such area, and this is my strength, and that's why I am going to be able to contribute. When you choose me, it's going to, do you feel the language? So it was the I language versus what she used as the we language, and everybody voted for her, even though saying that she was the least charismatic, but she just used the right language.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of the saying, people care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah. Yes. Boom. Boom. Moment of truth again. Totally.
Yes.
It's that care. That is the humanness I'm talking about. We feel it. We all feel it. It's within us. So in the organization, going back to your question, they all feel it. They're all going to feel it. That's why the language is important. Using the we language, using I care about you language, using let me appreciate you. How else can I appreciate you language? Using level 2 listening, that the way I teach coaching to my students. So there are levels of listening. So when you listen from your own perspective, you're at level 1. But if you rise up to level 2, then you're listening from their perspective. Like, how can I make you feel even more appreciated? That is the question, and that is the language, and that is the organizational shift that we're talking about while reactivating the humanness.
Amazing. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, it's like, I think we're putting the heart back into business in a way, like sort of like the local store. It would remember you by name, it would know a little bit about what's going on with you and have an interaction with you. And I think for some people in business, they're going to listen to this and they're just going to roll their eyes, because they're going to go, how do I manage this? Like, how do I actually scale this? Like, and, because it's much more, I guess you could say, scalable to be templated, to have people saying a script, to have people, not be, what's the word, like, riffing and just sort of like interacting too loosely and stuff. And I think what you're saying is that at the central sort of training theme and values is that you understand at the end of the day, you're there for that customer. Their connection with your business is for you to take care of them and to treat them as an individual and as a human. And even if it means that you serving them doesn't make sense, you'd be better off to sending them to work with someone else, because that just shows you care. I mean, it's the example would be Nordstrom's. There's a famous story where some little old lady came to Nordstrom's and brought her tire that she wanted to return. And they gave her money back and said, no problem. Well, Nordstrom's doesn't even sell tires, but they just cared about her. And, they knew she was a customer of the store, but they just did it because they didn't want to embarrass her that she was in the wrong store.
Oh, wow.
That's a human response.
That's next level.
That's something that didn't follow a script. You couldn't have planned for it, but they're training them on how to treat their customers, reflected and espoused the values they had. And the person on the spot had the wherewithal to react in a way that was congruent with their values. And I think that's what you're saying. Am I correct?
Yes, you're absolutely right on point, Scott. It couldn't be better.
Awesome. Absolutely. Well, cool. That was a great little bonus round there. I appreciate it. Let's wrap it up and maybe just share with people where they can find you, follow you, and you've got a book. Just give us a little rundown of where people can get more information.
Sure, with pleasure. So my website is shinyunsal, ShinyUnsal.com, my name and my last name. And then they can find me on Instagram, on YouTube, and also on Facebook with the same name, Shiny Unsal. And you mentioned that, yes, I am an author of the book, and I've written it both in Turkish and in English. So if you would like to grab my book, which has a very interesting language in the title, it says, "You are a star, shine." And the subtitle is "Become a Galactic Leader in 5 Steps." So I created another 5 steps where I take everyone to become a galactic leader. So what does that mean? A galactic leader is a true leader, comes from the truth again, comes from the space of cosmic, like I'm living my life on my own terms. And this is my space. This is my truth. This is my purpose. You're absolutely living your life on your terms, and you're making your own difference as a game changer. So that is my goal, and that is my mission, and that's why I wrote that book. And then you can find it on Amazon. Like I said, the name is "You Are a Star, Shine." And I also teach at UCLA Extension twice a year in spring and summer times. So if you just go to UCLA Extension and search for leadership communication strategies, you can actually find me. And I can also give Forbes Coaches Council as another resource to get in touch with me and read my articles and my sharings as well as my LinkedIn. So I'm also Shiny Unsal on LinkedIn. So everywhere it's the shiny one.
Easy to find. Amazing. Galactic. Now, I don't want to just end on just where to find you. I'm like, so you're basically like, it doesn't get any bigger than galactic. I mean, I'm like, okay, so you want to like the world, I thought was the level. I guess that's your whole point, is you take everything to the next level, and galactic is pretty much next level. And I'd say this has been a galactic episode. So thank you so much for being on the show and sharing with our listeners. I think that without question, if you're up for it, I think this deserves a follow-up podcast to go in deep with some of the other things that we didn't even get a chance to talk about.
Absolutely. I would love to continue this conversation with you, because we're going to go even galactic, intergalactic. We're going to go intergalactic in our next episode.
Oh, that's right. Intergalactic is even bigger. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I think didn't Charles, or not? I'm trying to think. Richard Branson. I was going to say Charles.
Yeah. Richard Branson.
He has intergalactic Virgin, I think he trademarked it or something like
Wow.
that, made an
Well,
incorporation.
yeah, they do have that
Yeah,
language because it's about the space. Like that came to me when I was studying cosmology, and that is the concept of oneness. Like it all comes from one singular source of quantum intelligence. That's what I kind of refer when I say galactic, intergalactic, stardust. You're a star, galactic leader. They all come from the same source of where we're coming from, the oneness.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your amazing, shiny insights. Thank you, everyone, for listening. As always, please leave some reviews, put some comments up. Let me know what you think, what you'd like to hear. My email is scott@groundswell.marketing. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, mahalo.
Keep shining. Bye-bye.